Well, welcome. And the panel is Advertising or Content Provider, a Brave New World or Back to the Future. And I'm thrilled that you're here, and I think we'll have some fun. I wanted to, start by saying that clearly in this whole branded content space, the initiative continues to really be about the ability to tell compelling and engaging stories, as we all hear, across multiple platforms. And I'm sure this will come across loud and clear. But the realities of this landscape recently really does require a new kind of partnership to connect brands with audiences and media vehicles that reflects the DNA of a brand. And I believe that in this new world, it really must include a whole bunch of things that never were really the case in the past. Today, it's got to include content development, production, and probably distribution, because there are a lot of players in the marketplace for both the traditional film entertainment pieces of this puzzle that have barriers to entry, as well as the digital and the mobile and other experiential distribution opportunities. If not, I think it's going to be really difficult for brands that are playing in this space to really achieve their potential and deliver on their media strategy. Having said that, this is a very fragile area. It's no longer the days of yesteryear when you can slip a brand into content and call it a day. The days of putting Winston cigarettes into content, in that case Flintstones, I don't know if you remember, there were cigarette ads in all of the Flintstones episodes. Today there are 50 basic cable networks that really matter. There are hundreds of new digital and online destinations. And the importance of brand partners in changing the economics of everything that we're doing in television, both on the production side, as well as on the opportunity to promote content in this very, very cluttered marketplace, has never been more important. It seems that clutter and innovation or technology continue to be our biggest challenge. So toward that end, let me just introduce, which is great, as I know one of the other panelists just got out, so people are going to be coming in. So let me introduce the panelists first. Frank Cooper is the global CMO at PepsiCo, in charge of consumer engagement. He was recently named one of the top 100 creative people in the business. I've known Frank for years, and he's always been that in my mind. He's a very, very impressive marketer, and as you've all probably read in the newspapers recently, takes a lot of risks. He worked in the music business. One of the reasons why I think that Pepsi sort of spent a lot of time in that direction, but oversees all of the entertainment franchises for the company, including X Factor, among other branded entertainment platforms. He went to Harvard Law School, because he couldn't get into Columbia, I guess. And we're glad to have Frank here. Chauncey Hamlet. Chauncey worked at Gannett, Coors, and Pepsi as well in his day. I met Chauncey when he was at Bacardi, where he still is, managing Grey Goose and a wide array of Bacardi brands. I can tell you that together we had produced Iconoclasts and Rising Icons and a number of other branded content opportunities that have, at least in our own minds, have gone down in history. He worked with a lot of talent. It's been a very talent-driven set of brands at Bacardi. And this most recently, Jay-Z and he are introducing a cognac, I believe, together for Bacardi. He too was like top marketer in a magazine, like in Black Enterprise. I mean, it seems like it's going with the thing, all these top marketers that are here. Sitting next to him is Michael Nyman, who's the CEO of PMK, BNC. And most of you probably know PMK. They're probably the leader in bridging this world of entertainment and brands with over 500 entertainment clients. Michael merged his company a few years ago and has really taken a big lead in this space. And their clients include JCPenney, Samsung, X Factor, Condé Nast, Pepsi. Don't worry, I was just going to wait and see if you sweat a little bit. And Michael is very active philanthropically on a whole bunch of different boards out there. And he's a very, very clever marketer. And immediately to my left, Michael Gross. He's the CEO and a director of Morgan's Hotel Group, where I work with Michael, on that board. He may not be a Media Man of the Year, but I tell you, he's gotten very wealthy, and he will get really wealthy if this company really continues to go. He started, instead of marketing, on the finance side in doing private equity and some other areas. And he has, in the last, how many years, 2 years, really created an unbelievable vision for Morgan's, which includes brands, for those of you who don't know, like the Delano and the Mondrian and other hotels around the world. It's a global hotel company. And what's really interesting is with what's going on with everything in the marketplace in terms of location-based marketing. It's going to be interesting to see what he's thinking about in this space. So let's just get right into this. And if there is time, I'd love to save some time for some questions from the audience. First, I guess, why are brands today, and consumer brands that we all grew up with, creating their own content, not just putting in product placement? I remember the days when I was over at MTV and I was running this area. We'd say to people, give me $20 million in more media spend. I remember Rick Rock at Pepsi, and just go away. We really don't want you in our shorts, and just get the heck out of here. Is it the result of the fragmentation in media? Is it more in line with the need for a brand story? Or is it actually with an eye toward recouping some of your marketing expenses down the road, or actually a thing called profit? Or is it really just to have fun, that it's a fun place to be, sort of like in the digital area? You may as well do it because it's fun and I'll play in the space. Chauncey, I just want to begin with you. In the liquor category, liquor really couldn't get on television in the early days. So is that what it was, and how did it work, and how did you get into this?
Thanks, Bobby. As you know, originally, spirits, we couldn't really advertise in certain places. So when we worked with the team and we created Iconoclast, it was really just a way of trying to break through and get on air. But as we evolved the platform, it was about association with celebrity and really creating affinity, for our consumers. So originally, yeah, it was about trying to get on air, because spirits, there's a lot of there's a lot of roadblocks when it comes to air. We couldn't air on NBC. We tried any which way we could to get on air. And when we joined with the team at Radical and the Sundance Channel, it was, hey, this is a great opportunity to get on air. Then as we evolved, we created this Grey Goose Entertainment platform, and we really started to get excited around it. And it became, okay, well, this is a real dynamic entity, and how do we kind of create, consumer affinity and start to really blow out some other opportunities around the category.
And, Grey Goose Entertainment, that actually appeared on air. That became a brand unto itself, right?
Yeah, so with Grey Goose Entertainment, we originally had Iconoclast. We worked with another brand that we developed, what was called the Artist's Den. And then we created another music series called Grey Goose Rising Icons, which was more of a dynamic 3-tier program in which it included a tour, a digital piece as well. And also we were able to kind of tie into the music industry and really tap into those more younger LDA consumers.
Frank, I just want to, Pepsi has always been in this space, and they took a breather for a while, or at least it seemed, as a consumer, and now obviously you're back in the space in a big, big way. Where does this fit in the Pepsi world, as opposed to, because you're spending so much in advertising, so much, where does it fit in the company?
Yeah, I'm not even sure we took a breather. I think we've experimented across the board, and sometimes it's in TV, sometimes it's digital, sometimes it's inviting consumers to participate, like the Pepsi Refresh project. But I feel like we've always been in content. The 30-second spot to me is content, is storytelling. What's changed is that, well, actually, everything around us has changed. The consumer has changed, culture has changed, social institutions have changed. And most importantly, storytelling has changed. The story part of it may not have changed, but the telling part has definitely changed. And so what we're trying to do is create this affinity between our brand and consumers. And what we've learned is you can't simply do that through the traditional methods of a 30-second spot. So you have a choice. You either can associate, and hopefully the viewer will find some value in that association, or you go deeper and you become part of creating that content. And we believe that the side you want to be on as a brand, a lifestyle brand, is actually creating the content. All lifestyle brands, I believe, are going to move more toward becoming media companies and entertainment companies, because that's where the value is created from the consumer perspective. But what I've learned is that it's really hard. I mean, we've done it. Warner Brothers, we did a music show called Pepsi Smash, which we migrated over to Yahoo, which became very successful online. We've done a series of documentaries from First Descent to a cult skateboard film called Death Bowl to Downtown. We've done the whole transmedia storytelling through David Van Eysen in a haunted movie called, a horror film called Circle of Eight. And we've had varying levels of success. But again, what I've learned is that this whole notion of branded entertainment is a little bit of a misnomer, because from a consumer perspective, they don't care if it's branded entertainment or not. They just care about entertainment. And so what we're trying to do is move more toward becoming that kind of content producer or partner or collaborator that produces good entertainment that engages consumers and that allows some kind of visible contribution from the brand, so people can see that the brand is really adding value to their lives. That's the ultimate goal, and that's why we're doing.
You know, that's a great point, because if I go to a concert and Pepsi's not a sponsor of that concert, I wonder whether it's really an A act or not. Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring that up in terms of added value. Michael, this is a hotel company, a boutique hotel company with 13 properties now, probably growing to around the world to 20, 30 properties. Is it your brand that's so cool when it comes to some of the brands, or is it your actual relationship with your customer that is giving you the permission to, one, be in the space in the way you currently are, or think about it in the way that you want to be? And I'm curious, just, what are you guys doing?
Well, I think that, and to sort of follow on what Frank said, we're effectively a hotel company that's origins were real estate development and building these great assets. But as our platform grew, took a step back and said, well, we've got this great platform that's growing and with core brands like Delano and Mondrian all over the world. How do we really monetize that and scale it on a much broader level? And we're exactly doing what Frank said, trying to transition to becoming more viewed as not just a hotel brand, but a lifestyle brand. And in doing that, it really is creating our own content where we can. If you think about it, we have physical space that every day guests are coming in and out of. We also happen to have engaging lobbies and bars and restaurants, all of which create a tremendous amount of active interaction with our guests, but the opportunity to really create content. And for instance, we just created a website, Back of House, which is completely the opposite from, we have a transaction website, but this is all about creating the content and streaming it out and getting it out to our customers. And I think to Bobby's question, ultimately, it is about our relationship with our customer and keeping the vibe of our properties cool and interesting and different, and trying to always push the needle. And I think the more we do that, the stronger our brands resonate, the more interesting our properties will be, and ultimately more and more owners and developers around the world will come to us and say, shit, we got to have a Delano in Moscow and Las Vegas and Marrakesh, which we just opened in Marrakesh. We're converting the hotel at Mandalay Bay is going to be converted to Delano in about 12 months. We've got a major property in Moscow, and more of that happening. So for us, it's about creating the relationship with the customers for sure, but within our box, within our properties, creating an atmosphere that really is engaging and over time is going to resonate for a broader brand relationship.
Could there be a Morgan's Hotel record label at some point in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what we've done is, as we've stripped out the real estate side, what we've effectively done is sold the majority of our real estate. So now what's left is effectively Morgan's as a brand management business. And I think our opportunity, because we are associated with cool and interesting and lifestyle, is to take those brands today. And I think my goal and vision is for Delano not to be, as I said, a hotel brand, but a lifestyle brand. And in doing that, creating an entertainment platform. I mean, we have the ability all the time. We get pitched products, new products, mature products that want to get access to our mini bars, that want to be doing shows around the pool at Delano or Mondrian, etc. So for us, it is about how do we now, instead of just giving that away for free, why not partner with or create a platform where we can help create the content day one and have Morgan's be much more of an entertainment platform, and hopefully use that as a basis to monetize on a much broader level what our brands represent.
Michael Nyman, the other Michael, you're a big company. You've got a lot of clients. And you basically, I think historically, have told stories across multiple platforms. And in the past, when I was younger, it's not that long ago, so when I was younger, those stories were told by companies like yours by putting out a release or, it was PR driven. Today, how do you do it? Because with all the platforms that exist, do you have verticals where there's the TV guy and the digital gal and the whatever, or is there one person who's got to be educated across platforms? Because it seems to me that's one of the biggest challenges in our business. If you don't spend 35 years learning each of these things, how do you do it?
Well, for us as an agency, I guess our killer app is really being, as we like to think of ourselves, as the leading authority on popular culture and entertainment. It's easier for me to convince a client that we have the resources, the knowledge, the relationships in that space than it is to say we do communications a little bit better than someone else. But what we do is we sit down with our clients and really focus in on first, hopefully it's a clean slate when we sit down with them, and they're sort of lost. And what we're going to try and do is get them centered and get them focused on their brand and making sure that there really is a brand halo and their understanding about the essence of their brand, the values, what's important to them, who their key customers are, and many of them have many constituents that they need to manage. And we'll sit with them and say, hey, let's figure out how we can work with you. And it may be limited or it could be fully integrated. So when Pepsi comes to us and we're sitting with someone like Frank has a view. He already understands the importance of popular culture. He gets it. He knows relationships aren't static. They're always moving. He needs to have a constant conversation. He knows that he needs to be part of pop culture, or Pepsi needs to be part of popular culture, and hopefully even driving those cultural moments. And then we come along and say, okay, how can we add value to that? It might mean that they have the owned part and the paid media part, and we're going to focus on the earned media part. And we're going to make sure that there's proper third-party endorsement of everything that's happening. Or it might be that we might plus something up because we have certain relationships and we can leverage. That was the case with X Factor. Pepsi was already there. Frank decided he wanted to commit to it. We were there because we represented the production, essentially the show, and many of the key talent associated with it. And hopefully we brought some added value to them. But as an agency, it is a changing world. And I think if you're going to sit there and say, we do one thing and one thing only, I think you're dead in the water. We do marketing, we do communications, we do consulting. So a client wants to sit down with us for 2 months and figure out how to get their head on straight and figure out a strategy and how they'll tell their story, we're going to be there with them. If they're ready to go and push the button, we're going to be there with them. We've got people that understand product integration, sponsorship, communications, or the storytelling component. We do content development. It really doesn't matter. We need to be nimble, and someone used the word permission the other day. We go as far as our clients give us permission to go, and we also respect those boundaries that they say, we need you to fill this role. But gone are the days where Pepsi or JCPenney or anyone would say, we need a digital agency, we need an ad agency, we need promotions agency, we need PR. No more. They just want good people in the room that they know and trust and figure out who does what best, and everyone promises to collaborate and work together as a team, and then it's just go. And that's where we're at. And ultimately, you mentioned about where content belongs. I think arguably the client should own that relationship. So whether you have someone who's head of consumer engagement globally or someone who's head of, there's going to be chief conversation officer or chief culture officer. We're going to get to those titles, but someone's going to have the responsibility on the client side to say, I'm going to own that engagement with those consumers, and then we're going to figure out the cadence to talking to them, and when do we use earned or third-party endorsement, when do we go owned, when do we do paid media advertising, and it's tricky because it is fluid.
You bring up an interesting point. When I'm looking at a commercial partner, I'd much rather, I don't want to offend anyone, but I'd much rather be with Pepsi than with Clearasil when I'm doing the Video Music Awards, okay?
Yeah.
But on your guys' side, how do you pick best of breed partners? And I'm sure everyone here is sort of interested in that, like whether it's a producing partner or whether it's a digital partner. How do do it? Do you leave it up to your agencies who say, here they are? Is it just based on your own experience, or is it so new? Can I just open it up to any of you guys?
I mean, on our end, we were just very lucky to have partners that were very dynamic in the space, that understood production, understood advertising.
That was a layup to you, Sean.
Yeah, it's very lucky. Yeah, thank you. That understood media. So, you know, for us, it was a clear choice that, you know, we needed kind of, to Michael's point, kind of one partner. Because I think, you know, you want everyone to be able to play nice in the sandbox, but to be able to have like one partner that things can move very fluid and quickly. You know, decision making is key here, right? Especially when you have a certain amount of investment on the table. And for us, branded entertainment in the spirits industry is very new. And so having a partner that understood all facets of the business it was the key for us. So.
Chauncey said fluid. You know, everyone thinks there's so much money at stake. There's so much at stake for these brands when they commit and they do these you know, branded content plays. You would think that it moves very slowly, just the opposite. It needs to move quick. I mean, there may be sort of a long lead up in terms of dialogue, but it's just, these things really do happen quick. And then usually you're behind, like the timeline's behind and we got to catch up. So one really needs to, you know, to be able to be comfortable in that sort of space of uncertainty, a little bit in the gray, and trust.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree totally with that. We're definitely looking for people who are comfortable with uncertainty and who know how to collaborate in a creative environment. You know, for us, the whole days of having someone come in and say, I'm going to deliver a digital product to you, or I'm going to deliver a 30-second spot, and splitting it up in that way just doesn't make any sense, as you said, Michael. So for us, it's really, I'm playing in the gaps 90% of the time, right? So if I do a record deal, I'm not trying to compete against a traditional record label. They're really good at what they do. I'm not trying to compete against a network studio. They're really good at what they do. But what's happening, because it's all moving so quickly and there's so much uncertainty, there are structural gaps that are in the marketplace today. There are market failures that we can take advantage of because we're not bound by the same financial constraints that they are. And so, you know, there are certain people who like to play in that space and some people who don't. And the ones that do, I think, not only lead to something that's really exciting, but profitable. I'll give you one example. You know, we worked with Forrest Whitaker on Mountain Dew, which is not an obvious combination. Right? Mountain Dew is, you know, from the hills of Tennessee. You know, the original logo of Mountain Dew is guys going up with a shotgun to the shed. It's a euphemism for moonshine. That's what Mountain Dew is. And the Forrest Whitaker created a property called Democracy for us, and it became this entertainment vehicle that led to the most successful limited time offering in PepsiCo history. And so, you know, playing in those gaps with the right people who have the right mindset, it's definitely, that's the kind of partnership that we're looking for.
And people think that that, you know, the brands are behind, like the entertainment guys lead the way. You know, no offense, but I think it's just the opposite. I think, you know, the brands walk in and take a look, you know, what are the possibilities, and are often driving these ideas.
Clearly.
And the platform, and here's our distribution strategy on it, and entertainment just sort of becomes a critical component to, you know, to reach the consumer. But these guys on the brand side are pretty smart.
You know,
I'd also,
I think, you know, one of the things I was just going to say, that I think you have to be somewhat careful, because when you go to the networks where there are these barriers, particularly this is a big TV crowd, the programming guys would rather not touch the branded stuff, because the ad sale guys have come in and said they're going to spend X. So, you know, I've always thought you got to know a little bit more about ad sales than the programming guys, and a little bit more than programming than the ad sales guys when you go in. Yeah, Michael, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say also, a lot of it comes down to, in our space, it's economics and who's got the pocketbook. And at the end of the day, more often than not, our friends over here at Pepsi, Bacardi, they've got the big checkbooks. And when we have big ideas for either special events or launching certain products, ultimately it is a collaboration. And so the number one thing we think about is, from a brand appropriateness, who represents and is going to be aligned with our brands, that when we tell our story, because the ultimately your brand is going to be closely associated with who you align with. So having the right partners for us is first and foremost, And then after that, it is a lot about, economics. And often we get the choice of, we can partner with and I'll use the example of water because it is sort of so crowded right now, but we could partner with an emerging water who we could potentially help launch, give them exposure, and maybe even get a piece of the equity of that brand in an early stage. Or we can partner with Pepsi and ultimately have the ability to get big checks and upfront, and you're always making that sort of balancing act. But I think those are the things that we think about, and ultimately it's when you can find the right partners who represent your brand well and have pockets and have an aligned vision, that ends up being the win-win.
Well, that begs a big question, which is, and I know ROI matters, but the question I have is, are there parts of your budgets that you sit in a meeting and you say, the associative value, I may not move more cases, or I remember on Iconoclast, ROI didn't matter until the ROI was great on Iconoclast, but are there places where you guys are saying, I'm going to put this much money away for the image thing and it's going to be in branded content, or does it always have to have the ROI, or is it different among all of you?
I'll take a stab first because we're on the agency side. So all the clients are constantly asking us to give the ROI or create the measurement or the metrics. Surprisingly, most of the clients don't invest as much as maybe they should on understanding the data. We're lulled into a security or safety zone with cost per thousands, right? It makes us feel good to know that we got a good deal, right? Present company excluded, by the way. So unfortunately, we do have some of those standards or those norms. I actually think it just doesn't do it justice. And more often than not, when we're with the client, we suggest a wide variety of metrics. They usually dictate what they're looking for because they're the ones that have given us the budget and have worked through the various divisions in their company to get the money based on a certain result. So we're really working off of what's going to make them happy. But it's tricky because I think that short of understanding that we've gotten a quote unquote good deal, I still think we're all sitting here scratching our heads saying, at what point did the consumer make the decision? What was the last thing he or she heard or saw or did? And the answer is probably that everything that we're doing, this wallpaper, this 24/7 wallpaper is leading the consumer down the road to make that consideration of a purchase.
Frank, can you get away with anything without an ROI attached?
Very, very, very little. I mean, look, money follows, at least in large companies, money follows what can be measured. And if you can't measure it, you're going to play at the margins. And so we always try to set up something that can be measured. The challenge is there's no standard approach to it across the industry. And so, I mean, even in the company, there's no standard approach right now. There are, with respect to branded entertainment. Yes, we look at the analytics coming across social media, and that becomes a great source of information for us. And we see how many tweets and retweets we have, and how many people are talking about it and sharing the information. That's great. But there's no standard approach to that. So what we try to do on the large-scale projects, whether it's kind of a sexy entertainment project or a music project or a straight retail project, is we're looking at, does it in some way drive our standard measures of brand equity, or does it drive sales? And Nirvana is that you can do both. And fortunately, we're able to do that on things like the X Factor, where we got retail displays and incremental displays drive additional sales, and we got a lot of talk value in the social media
That was
space.
fully integrated.
That was
a
fully integrated. Yeah, exactly.
Michael, is it butts and beds for you? Or?
Well, no, I mean, look, we're a public company, and obviously everything has to be, ultimately driven towards driving ROI and share price. But, when in my seat, I have decisions every day to make. Should we invest more money in development deals and try to grow the brand that way? Should we, invest more back into our systems? Should we invest more in brand marketing? Brand marketing is always the hardest decision because there isn't that always direct sort of correlative, okay, if we invest the $2 million here, this is what it's going to mean for us in bottom line. So, but yet if you ignore it and, ultimately your brand starts to wane, the whole story starts to really unravel. So for us, it is trying to find that balance of good deals, great exposure, but ultimately that somehow it's going to able to enhance our, ultimately our brand story, so we can sign more deals and grow the brands on a global basis.
Yeah, I think as the years have gone by, we've been able to look at our branded entertainment platform and really extract value out of it, really taking a 360 approach. So to Frank's point, there's standard areas that we have to really win in. So whether it's at retail, whether it's digital, whether it's the just advertising scores. So we've been able to go in, and when we go into partnerships, look at from the beginning. First of all, make sure that it's a great brand fit. Right? We want to make sure it's a great brand fit, but we want to look at the outcome. So we try to look at the end process. So at the end, what's going to happen at the end, and is there going to be a retail component? Is there going to be for us in the spirits industry? Is there going to be an on-premise component that we can drive activation, sampling, sales? So we look at it from all the way at 30,000 feet all the way down to when the product is going in the consumer's mouth. So really taking a 360 approach to what our kind of core standard business is and seeing how the branded entertainment piece can really fit into that. So as a property like Iconoclast, it's pretty tough. I mean, you're not gonna, Iconoclast is kind of its own animal, but we were able to kind of start doing certain retail elements of it and 360 approaches to allow us to really activate and bring the brand to life, the platform to life. Even like a Rising Icons, which was a music platform, which originally was just on TV, then we created like a 35 market tour, a retail component, digital component, things like that, so it really helped.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to thank you guys because this was really great, and I want to thank all of you for giving up the sun to come in, and especially for you New Yorkers. So thank you, and thanks, guys.